EFF MP Carl Niehaus delivered a passionate speech in Parliament condemning the continued existence of racially exclusive communities such as Orania and Kleinfontein. He's argued that these enclaves represent a direct threat to South Africa's efforts towards building a united, non-racial and socially cohesive society. He joins us now via our video link. Mr. Niehaus, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. And now, of course, you have slammed these Afrikaans communities, particularly Orania and Kleinfontein. One would say, why do you deem these communities as problematic?
Well, good evening. I deem them problematic because they are defined in racial terms. You know, these communities try to say that they present themselves in terms of cultural determination, but that is utter nonsense. The only reason why they exist, the only reason why they continue to have these exclusivist areas and enclaves is because they are not prepared to be part of an integrated and united South Africa. They are not prepared to share with the majority of Black and African people. Go and ask those who are in Orania and in Kleinfontein whether they will allow Black South Africans to stay there. And the answer will be very clear, no. A couple of years ago, I asked that question of Professor Karel Boshoff, who was the founder of Orania. I said to him, will you allow me to stay in Orania? And he frowned and said, but of course, although we disagree with you, you are a white person. I then said to him, but will you allow my Black wife and my Black children to stay in Orania? And he said to me, absolutely not. Black people are not allowed to stay in Orania. And there you have the essence of the situation. This is not about cultural self-determination. It is about racism. It is about racist superiority. And as long as that is what Orania stands for, what Kleinfontein stands for, then we have to insist that these white supremacist, racist enclaves have to be closed down. And that is why the economic freedom fighters marched to Orania and we marched to Kleinfontein. I see on the footage that you are showing, right at the gate of Kleinfontein, there was a particular set of words on display. It said, ons land, ons God, ons volk, ons eie. All of it exclusivist. I said in a speech that I delivered in front of those gates at Kleinfontein, no one can claim God as their own, especially not when you are a racist. And this country and this land belongs to all the people of South Africa, but especially the Black and African people. The African people who have been dispossessed at gunpoint by white colonists. And what we see in Kleinfontein, what we see in Orania, is a continuation of that white colonist mindset. And certainly that is unacceptable, and certainly racism cannot be tolerated in South Africa, especially because of our history. And the long struggle for liberation that we fought.
And Carl, one would also ask, I mean, just looking into the country's history of racial segregation, what does it say if we continue to have communities of this nature that continue to racially divide South Africans?
It's a very dangerous situation. It harks back to the old apartheid system. And it tells us also about the weakness of the African National Congress that has been in government for 31 years and could have brought an end to these racially defined communities. The ANC has got the tools to do so. It's got Section 9 of our Constitution that very clearly says that all forms of discrimination are unacceptable and that those who make themselves guilty of discrimination should be charged, they should be arrested, and they should be imprisoned. And that is exactly what the economic freedom fighters is calling for.
But Carl, at the same time, these groupings are saying that, these communities exist because Afrikaners want to preserve their language and preserve their culture. What is your thoughts on that when they are saying that this is purely to preserve the Afrikaner culture in South Africa?
Why are the Afrikaners feeling so weak that they cannot have their language, the Afrikaans language, which, by the way, is not just the language of whites, but also of black people in South Africa, to coexist as one of the 12 languages in South Africa? Why do they feel so weak and insecure about their own culture? Certainly they can have their culture developing together with all the other cultures of South Africa. Our nation is a nation of unity in diversity. And that is what we should strive towards, not exclusivism, not withdrawing, and not arrogant racism. Because what is in Kleinfontein, and there you saw again those very wrong words, those unacceptable words of claiming God for themselves and the country for themselves, that is exactly what we should stand against with every fiber in our being. I said this morning again, also on social media, that my belief is that Orania and Kleinfontein should immediately be closed down. In fact, they should be erased from the face of South Africa, and anyone who wants to oppose such erasure of them from the face of South Africa should face the full wrath of the law.
And Carl, what is your take when it comes to comments from parties like the Freedom Front Plus who have defended these communities and also say that the real threat here in South Africa is yourselves as the EFF?
The Economic Freedom Fighters is a fundamentally anti-racist party. It is also proudly a black and African party. And the Economic Freedom Fighters will continue to fight for all people in South Africa, but especially for the poor and the oppressed. And we all know that the poor and oppressed in South Africa are black and African. So the EFF is not the danger. Racism is the danger. Economic exclusion is the danger. The lack of land and whites holding on to land is the danger. The EFF, in fact, holds the key for a future in South Africa where there can be justice, but justice that will then give birth to unity. But it is very important to understand, we cannot have a true South Africa, a true patriotic nation without justice, without the return of the land, and without the economy of this country being in the control of the majority of black and African people. And if the Freedom Front Plus feels threatened by this, it only shows their own myopic attitude. It only exposes them for the racists that they are. It shows that they are not patriots, and it shows that they do not care for a united South Africa in the service and in the empowerment of every single South African.
Carl, thank you so much for your time this evening. That's EFF MP Carl Niehaus just giving us an insight there in terms of his comments when it comes to the communities in South Africa who are exclusive to the Afrikaans community.